All right, it's talk time now. Conspiracy theories have spiced up crisis for decades, and the latest tension in Turkey are providing fresh material as the country experienced an attempted overthrow of government last week.
Newspapers and ordinary Turks eager to make sense of the crisis have been pointing fingers at the United States, both a close ally and traditional object of suspicion.
Now, this is amid a continued crackdown by the government on suspected supporters of the coup. Now, Joy Otuyinka reports.
Two of Turkey's four-star generals resigned on Thursday, one day after the military dishonorably discharged about 1,700 personnel for their alleged role in an attempt to overthrow the government. The discharged include 149 generals and admirals, which military data say represents roughly 40% of all Turkish generals and admirals. The country's foreign ministry also says it dismissed 88 employees on Thursday. These are the latest in a series of purges of suspected supporters of the failed military coup. The media has not been spared as the government shut down more than 130 media outlets in the country. These include 3 news agencies, 16 television channels, 45 newspapers, 15 magazines and 29 publishers. The European Union has also expressed concern at reports that more than 2,700 members of the judiciary have been removed and that the death penalty might be restored in Turkey. These moves have further stoked concerns amongst rights groups and Western governments about the scale of Erdogan's post-coup purges.
Number of commanders in jail is high and is expected to rise in the coming days, making it challenging to form the top military brass. And it's worth mentioning that the future of the top military commanders who were captured during the coup attempt remains unclear.
Turks are churning out conspiracy theories on who orchestrated the coup that nearly killed President Tayyip Erdogan and has handed him plenty of political ammunition to widen a crackdown on opponents, real and imagined. The main focus of their curiosity is Erdogan's US-based arch foe, Fethullah Gulen, who has denied any role in the botched coup attempt.
Why don't they hand him over? Why do they keep making insinuations? He lives there. Don't you think this is an apparent indicator? This is the impression people have. If he doesn't live in his country, he could live in a Muslim country. Why does he live in the United States? These are the details we have noticed.
At the moment, Mr. Erdogan's hand is strengthened. He has this opportunity to move against those who oppose him. And yet, because of the coup, he is now ruling over a Turkey which is much weaker. So that by pointing a finger at threats from abroad, threats from within, etc., he, in a sense, is isolating Turkey.
The United States says it understands Turkey's need to hold perpetrators of the attempted coup to account, but increasing concerns are that the crackdown may be sweeping up people simply because they are critical of Erdogan and his government. Joy Otuyinka, TVC News.
All right, you just heard that report now concerning the coup, or attempted coup rather, in Turkey. And from that attempted coup, there were calls that schools, Turkish schools in Nigeria, about 16 or 17 of them should be closed according to the request of the Turkish government. And we will be looking at these, how it concerns the Nigerian people. Now, the coup d'etat was attempted in Turkey on July the 15th this year. The coup was carried out by a faction within the country's armed forces and was targeted at state institutions, including the government.
A group calling itself the Council for Peace in the Homeland gave the elimination of democratic rule, a disregard for human rights, and Turkey's loss of credibility in the international arena as reasons for the attempted coup. Some coup leaders also cited corruption under President Erdogan's administration as a reason for their actions.
The attempt had several consequences. Now, the Turkish parliament was bombed. The Ankara presidential palace shelled, and police officers and pro-coup soldiers clashed, and more than 300 citizens died, leaving more than 2,000 people injured.
The Turkish government accused the coup leaders of being linked to the Gulen movement, a group designated as a terrorist organization by the Turkish government. Fethullah Gulen denied the claims and condemned the coup.
All right, let's have our guest in the studio now. We have Professor Bola Akintoye-Wise, former Director General of the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. Professor, it's good to have you in the studio.
Thank you. I'm delighted to have me invited here.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right, now let's have a perspective to this, the way it concerns Nigeria. Now, this is an affair in Turkey, but the Turkish government is calling on Nigeria to close Nigeria-Turkish schools. What is the link between the coup in Turkey and this request by Turkey to Nigeria?
There are many ways of looking at the question.
Okay.
First of all, Turkey and Nigeria maintain diplomatic relations. And within the framework of this relationship, which in the eyes of the Turkish is more of a partnership. All right. The concept of a partnership already implies sovereign equality, meaning that you discuss, you negotiate on the basis of equality of state and status. The second point is that we have some Turkish nationals who have invested in the educational sector, health sector in this country. And being citizens of Turkey, operating in Nigeria, they are under private international law, meaning that if for whatever reasons the Turkish in Nigeria are denied access to justice, then diplomatic protection within the framework of private international law, not public international law. Because when you are talking about public international law now, you are now going to the 1961 Vienna Convention. Okay. But when you have citizens living in any foreign country, all right, the diplomatic protection applicable in that case is the private one, meaning that it is the law of the host country that will apply. So every country has constitutional provisions dealing.
Interesting, really, because if you listen to what the Turkish ambassador said about the closure of the school, that the schools have been linked to a movement called the Gulen movement.
Precisely.
And according to the Nigerian constitution, the right to belong to a particular movement, religious freedom, it is yours, isn't it?
Precisely.
All right.
Yes, I cannot agree more with that. You are very correct. That's the point I'm trying to make here, to say, when I said there are many ways of looking at it, the issue, the critical rationale for it is that Erdogan government has considered, rightly or wrongly, that the Turkish schools in Nigeria are being used as accessories to terrorism, and particularly to the failed coup in Turkey. On that basis, the Turkish government considered that Turkey has a sort of a strategic partnership with Nigeria, which allows the Turkish to ask for whatever service they think would be useful to the promotion of their bilateral relationship. Now, the issue is that at the end of the day, there is a fundamental problem at the level of the Turkish request. The explanation given by the Turkish ambassador to Nigeria, acting on the basis of his status as a plenipotentiary, as an extraordinary ambassador, that is, with full powers to talk on behalf of the Turkish government, he said that these schools should be closed because they are not Turkish schools. What does that mean? The use of the word Turkish as an adjective qualifying the school meant that in terms of possession, the school belongs to the Turkish government. But they are now saying that, look, the schools actually do not belong to them. It's not established, it's not authorized by the Turkish government. Now, meaning that in terms of implication, if you say a Nigerian school in the United States, that means that the schools in the United States belong to the government of Nigeria, which really isn't the case. That's the first problem. And then when private investors come to Nigeria and establish some schools, you know, they started in 1998. They rented an apartment in Abuja, and there were only 20 students by that time. But now, they've grown into a full-fledged university. They have hospitals, all right? And they are contributing meaningfully, you know, to the growth and development of the communities where they are located. Now, because they are nationals of Turkey, they can easily make use of the word Turkish to describe their initiative and their schools. But the government of Turkey implies now that, look, if you are saying Turkish school, it must be government school. They must have been involved. That is where something is fundamentally wrong in analyzing that.
So the interpretations there.
The interpretation.
Okay.
More fundamentally, since they are saying that the schools are being used, all right, for terrorism, and that the schools played active part in the failed coup, by particularly referring to United Bank for
UBA.
Africa, that it was the UBA served as the correspondent bank for all financial transactions, all right, etc. Now, no one has been able to prove that the schools have actually been involved. An accusation, an allegation, is good only to the extent that it is verifiable. All right. So that's where we are, and as it is, almost 7 hours ago, Fethullah Gulen made a statement in which he recalled how he had been incarcerated in the past in the various coup attempts, in which case he was described as a terrorist organization of only one person, a terrorist organization comprising one person, and how the law court had exonerated him. More interestingly, he placed emphasis on the fact that his own movement has been educating the Turkish, the people, on the need for secularism, on the need to avoid political Islam, quote and unquote, to now say that at the end of the day, he is the one fighting against, you know, terrorism. And he now said that for whatever reason, if over the years, for more than 40 years, accusations had always been leveled against him, and yet nothing is happening.
All right.
And he now had to even go on self-exile. He is now saying, please investigate. If for whatever reason, if I may quote him, one-tenth of the allegations levied against him is true, one-tenth, he's ready to come, even at his old age, 77 years, to Turkey to face the harshest
They've sent
punishment.
boxes of documents to the U.S., about 80, hundreds of those boxes sent to the U.S. right now. And perhaps the U.S. will go through them and who will know. But we have more information.
Yeah, let's reel out this. Now, Turkey and Nigeria maintain good relations in political, military, economic, commercial, cultural, and educational fields, like Professor has said earlier. And Nigeria and Turkey established diplomatic relations in 1960, with both countries setting up embassies in their capitals.
Both countries are members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, that is the IOC, and the Developing Eight, D8, which is a group of developing countries which formed an economic development alliance in 1997. And when this coup actually happened, President Muhammadu Buhari condemned the coup attempt and expressed support for the government of Turkey. So are you not surprised then that the government of the country is supporting the government of Turkey, and these allegations are made about the schools in Nigeria?
Yes, you are right. You see, the issue is that there cannot be any scintilla of surprise in it. Coup d'etat, coup making is no longer fashionable anywhere. It can always happen as a last resort, but nobody encourages any change of government by force. First of all, the Constitutive Act of the African Union itself has provided for coup making, that under no circumstance will it be condoned henceforth in Africa. So in the whole of Africa here, Nigeria being an active member of the AU cannot be seen not to condemn coup making in Turkey, because we are against it. And if a PMB, I mean President Muhammadu Buhari, will for whatever reason, directly or indirectly, consciously or otherwise, be seen to be condoning that, when he had been elected, no longer as he used to be a head of state before. Now he's president. It's different. When you are elected, conceptually, you are referred to as president. Even when IBB, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, called himself president, his attention was quickly drawn to it that there is the need for a qualifier, and military was put before, military president.
All right.
All right. So in this case, there's no surprise. If he's encouraging, supporting coup making, then he's inviting the same for himself in Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay. Before we go ahead, let's still talk about the relations between Nigeria and Turkey. Now, commercial and economic relations between Turkey and Nigeria remain strong, and according to data from the website of Turkey's Ministry of Economy, Nigeria is Turkey's 5th largest trade partner in Africa and 2nd among the sub-Saharan African countries.
Presently, Turkey's total trade volume with Nigeria is put at $1.145 billion, with the country's export to Nigeria being $314 million, while Nigeria's export to Turkey is worth $831 million. Turkey has a strong interest in the areas of construction, quarrying, textile, tourism, education, healthcare, hospitality, among others in Nigeria, except for now, if the schools are closed down now, perhaps the education aspect of it will be affected.
Well, we'll look forward to how that will be resolved. But Nigeria's main imports from Turkey include clothing, food items, engine and automobile parts, while Turkey imports sesame seeds, raw and semi-processed leather, as well as rubber, among others, from Nigeria. There are many Turkish companies in Nigeria operating mainly in the construction, manufacturing and energy sectors.
With a direct air link from Nigeria to Turkey, tourists now find it easier and cheaper to travel through Turkey to other European capitals, really.
All right, Prof, let me come back to this now. This allegation from Turkey to against or saying Nigeria, you have to do this, you have to do that. Now, one expects that when these schools were established and they were tagged Nigeria Turkish or Turkish Nigerian school, certainly, like we said, the embassy has been established since 1960. They knew that these schools as tagged may not necessarily be in the interest or maybe represent what they mean. We expect them to have come up with that an objection to the fact that, well, the Turkish government did not support the school, so you cannot call them Nigeria-Turkish schools. But it's coming now just because of the attempted coup. What is in that area? How wrong is that, or how technically not right is that?
You see, have you ever heard of a situation whereby there is smoke without fire? There must be fire first before you can talk about smoke coming out of it. It is because, in a Yoruba proverbial way of looking at it, it is because there is disagreement now that people are now beginning to see more clearly. Even on a lighter mood, it was Johnny Nash in one song. He says, I can see clearly now.
The rain is gone?
The rain is gone. In other words, when the rain was still there, he couldn't see clearly. Nigeria, Turkey establishing diplomatic ties as far back as 1960. Yes. Were Fethullah Gulen and Erdogan not friends before? Is it not because they fell apart that now they began to look at the failures of one another? The embassy was there, the embassy is still there, but because efforts recently were made to unseat an elected president, Erdogan. And Erdogan now look at it to say, okay, this is an opportunity for me, Erdogan, to bring all opponents to their knees, particularly looking at it from the perspective that the civil society, the people, played active part in opposing the coupists. He thought, he still thinks that he should take advantage by carrying along the people who kicked against the coup in his support, and then find every way of completely neutralizing any perceived enemy. So that's what is happening. It is not that if they say close down the Turkish schools, it doesn't have any good logic at the level of the Nigerian that we are. Because the schools were registered under CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. There are many multinational companies often looked at as foreign companies. They are not. You talk about MTN, you talk about Total, all those things. Yes, their parent body may be located elsewhere, but you cannot establish, you cannot operate in Nigeria without having been registered as a Nigerian company.
And once CAC does it, the name check and does it
precisely. That's what they call research, such aspect in CAC. If a name had already been registered, it cannot be approved for you. You have to change it. So if we are talking about Nigeria-Turkey schools, it simply means that already they've gone through the level of search. Nobody had that name before. Secondly, if the government of Turkey had wanted to establish a government school, a Turkish school, and they had used the name Turk or Turkish, yes, in that case, it is left for the CAC to approve or to disapprove. Okay. Let me tell you what happens at the level of Nigeria here. No group of persons is allowed to use the word council as a name. Why? Because council is reserved for government.
All right.
All right? So the principle is already established. We can have make a foundation, but the moment you are going to put Nigerian Council, Nigerian Mike Council, and then you know that you will never go too far.
But there are protests, actually, a couple of protests are taking place. Peaceful, not maybe a march from the Turks who live in Nigeria now to the Turkish embassy, expressing their support and solidarity for Erdogan. And some people see that perhaps this might polarize Nigeria's fight against terrorism, or perhaps this issue of alleging that some schools and some businesses in Nigeria are colluding with terrorism, that even the fight against terrorism in Nigeria might be polarized. Do you believe that?
Well, I can argue that you are right, but I can also argue that you are not right. Okay. It depends on what we are considering. The Turkish living in Nigeria should not easily forget that if they work against Nigeria's national interests, they can be easily declared persons non grata. Please note that one very well. If they have already acquired the citizenship of Nigeria, it's a different thing. Because in that case, they maintain dual nationality. They maintain their original citizenship of Turkey, and they acquired that of Nigeria. There are many ways of acquiring the nationality of a country. And the method of acquisition of the nationality determines the privileges and immunities. First of all, it's not just total. It's not just because you have just acquired Nigeria's nationality that you are eligible to contest for the position of president of Nigeria. The issue here is that at the end of the day, if the Turkish, with their dual nationality, want to give primacy to Turkish nationality to the detriment of Nigerian nationality, while living in Nigeria, they may not find it funny. There is nothing wrong in protesting, because they are protesting here, they are going to their embassy. The embassy has a status of exterritoriality. An embassy is considered as having, it's an extension of the home territory, the metropolitan country. So it is the laws, the rules, the regulations of the sending state that are valid in Nigeria. So Nigeria does not have control over what happens in their mission here. Okay. So if they are now going to their embassy as their citizens, they are going to their home country. There's no problem. The only thing is that they don't need any passport or visa in going to their mission in Nigeria. So they must be very careful, especially when it comes to, say, they are demonstrating. Demonstrating for what? If you are supporting Erdogan, yes, we can support, but it must not be done in such a way that it will be visibly to the detriment of Nigeria's national interests.
All right, Professor Bola Akinteriwa, former DG NIIA, thank you for joining us in TVC Breakfast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. That's where we have to come to the end of things this morning. Thanks for spending your morning with us. Tomorrow is going to be another time for us to discuss other issues. I am Mike Okwoche.
And I am Busola Mitunwashi. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.